AITA for walking out halfway through our family vacation. My husband and I are both in our mid-30s with 2 kids, ages 7 and 10. We haven't taken a proper family vacation in years because, according to him, work always came first. When he finally said we could spend a week at an all-inclusive beach resort, I almost cried from happiness. I spent weeks packing swimsuits, snacks, sunscreen, even little travel games for the kids. I imagined lazy mornings, ocean air, and maybe, just maybe, a spark between us again. We got there, and the first thing that hit me was how beautiful everything looked. Marble floors, the smell of salt and coconut oil, kids laughing in the pool. It felt like a commercial for happiness. Then I noticed his best friend Mark standing in the lobby, grinning like he owned the place. My husband had mentioned Mark might drop by for a few days. Apparently that meant he'd booked the adjoining suite, one of the fancy oceanfront ones. My husband laughed when I raised an eyebrow and said, "It'll be fun. Mark's great with the kids." When the concierge handed out room keys, my heart sank. My husband and Mark had one suite with a balcony and bar service. The kids and I were assigned a smaller back-wing room that smelled faintly of chlorine. I asked if it was a mistake. My husband said, "It's easier this way, Mark snores and you'll want the quiet." He said it so casually that I almost believed it was reasonable. But when I looked out at the view, a parking lot and dumpsters, I felt something twist in my chest. The first few days were a blur of small humiliations. At breakfast, my husband and Mark would leave early for the golf course while I tried to coax our sleepy kids through buffet lines. They'd come back suntanned and tipsy, talking about the real resort food they'd had at the clubhouse. Every evening they went to the bar for one drink, leaving me to supervise bedtime. When I asked if we could have one night together, he said, "It's just easier for everyone when you handle the kids. You're better at it." One afternoon, I finally got fed up and took the kids to the beach by myself. I bought them fruit smoothies, built sandcastles, and for a few hours I felt light again. Then I saw my husband and Mark walking down the shore with 2 resort staff women, laughing, drinks in hand. They didn't see me at first. When they did, he waved like I was a friendly acquaintance instead of his wife. That was the moment the little thread inside me snapped. That night, when he came back smelling of beer and sunscreen, I asked why he'd even invited me. He sighed and said, "Because you complain I never include you. You're here, aren't you? You've got the kids, the pool, the spa. What else do you want?" I said I wanted a husband who actually wanted to be with me. He rolled his eyes and muttered, "Drama," before heading to Mark's suite. I cried quietly in the bathroom so the kids wouldn't hear. 2 mornings later, I booked an early flight home. I told the kids we were going to surprise Grandma. My husband didn't even notice until we were at the airport. When he called, he was furious, accusing me of embarrassing him, of ruining the vibe. I told him I was done being the babysitter on his boys' trips. He called me ungrateful. I hung up. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since we got back. He returned 3 days after me and barely spoke for the first few nights. Then came the guilt trips. He said I'd made him look bad in front of Mark and the resort staff, that no one else's wife would just walk out. He's been sleeping in the guest room, alternating between cold silence and over-the-top gestures like buying flowers or offering to take me to dinner. But every time I look at him, all I can think of is the way he waved at me on that beach like I was some distant cousin. My mom has been helping with the kids. She said she always knew something was off with him but didn't want to interfere. I started writing down the little moments I used to excuse. The way he'd tell stories that made me the punchline, the jokes about how I should be grateful not to work, the vacations that were always somehow about his comfort. Seeing them in a list made me realize how small I'd allowed myself to become. He's trying to spin it as a misunderstanding. He said he only wanted me and the kids in a quieter room so we could rest, and that the bar nights were just networking. But when I asked why his networking always required pretty bartenders and why he never thought to include me, he had no answer. I suggested marriage counseling. He said we didn't need strangers in our business. The kids keep asking why Dad seems mad all the time. I tell them adults sometimes forget how to talk kindly. That's all I can manage without crying. I'm not sure what's next, but for the first time in years, I'm starting to think about what life would look like if I stopped waiting for him to notice me. Final update. 3 months later, I'm living in a small rental about 15 minutes from our old house. The separation papers aren't official yet, but the space feels like breathing after being underwater. The kids have adjusted better than I feared. They love their new school and our tiny balcony garden. I picked up part-time work at a community center. It's nothing glamorous, but every paycheck feels like a small piece of myself coming back. My husband still doesn't understand. He keeps saying I overreacted to one bad vacation. What he'll never grasp is that it wasn't 1 week. It was years of being treated like background noise. The trip just made it visible. I spent so long trying to make everything nice for everyone else that I forgot what it was like to feel wanted or even seen. Sometimes I replay the beach in my head, the water, the kids laughing, the moment I realized I was done. It doesn't hurt as much now. There's a strange peace in knowing the worst has already happened and I survived it. I tell my kids we're building a new kind of family, one where everyone gets to be heard. They seem to believe me. I'm starting to believe me, too. So no, I don't think I'm the a-hole for leaving. I think I finally stopped being one to myself.